Okay. Cancer isn't usually something that you think about celebrating. It's a nasty disease and it can be very debilitating both mentally and physically. When you have cancer, you're scared, not just of the disease but the treatments also. The initial diagnosis is one of the hardest parts of having cancer. The treatments that are used to fight the cancer are at times very unpleasant, but finishing your treatments and getting your life back to normal is one of the most wonderful feelings in the world. On September 2nd, 2009, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and was sent into a tailspin. When I was diagnosed, I thought that my world had come to an end, and I was in shock and felt like a deer caught in the headlights of an oncoming car. I think I felt every possible emotion. I felt scared, mad, lonely, self-pity, and most of all, I felt guilty because this tumor had been there for quite some time before I had gotten it checked, and I felt guilty about what my family and Brandon were going to have to go through or watch me go through. And waiting to find out how far my cancer had spread was one of the hardest things to get through. Luckily, after my PET scan, we found out that I was only a stage 3, which is considered curable. So now I had to get ready for the hard part and start chemo. I started my chemo on September 22nd, 2009. I was scared to death of the whole process. Just the word chemo is scary. Everything I had heard about chemo in the past was bad. I knew it was basically like poison going into your body. And as hard as it was for me, I went into chemo with a strong attitude. I was just ready to get this tumor to shrink up and die. The first treatment was the hardest. I felt nauseated, sick, and weak for about 10 days. Basically, I felt like I had a bad case of the flu. The second treatment got a little bit easier, but this was when my hair started to come out, and that was very hard. I knew it was going to happen, but I wasn't prepared for it mentally. So when it started to come out by the handful, I let Brandon, my significant other, shave it, and I cried during and after, but Brandon reassured me that I was still beautiful, so that made me feel better. And it took a while to get used to, but once I learned how to wear my scarves and started going out in public, I managed fine without my hair, and everyone was really great about it. Altogether, I did 8 chemo treatments. Next was my surgery, which I had built up in my head to be a nightmare, but it wasn't bad at all. I got really depressed and I cried a lot before surgery. It all worked out great. I was home the next day and had very little pain. So now I had to get ready for radiation, and I started that on March the 8th and finished up on April the 16th. I did 30 treatments altogether, 5 days a week. The radiation was a piece of cake compared to chemo. The side effects weren't nearly as bad as they were with the chemo. For the first few weeks I didn't really have many side effects, but the last 2 weeks my burns started to get pretty bad and I had quite a bit of pain and was really tired. Got a little bit depressed again. But now that my burns are healing, I feel a lot better. Realizing that I'm done with my IV chemo and radiation is a wonderful feeling. It feels just like a huge weight lifted from my shoulders. My hair is coming back in and getting thicker every day. I can eat again, and I can eat all the foods that I really enjoy, especially Mexican. Eating chicken 5 days a week was getting really old during chemo. I've gained back a few of the pounds that I lost during chemo, and putting that weight back on has helped my self-esteem. My radiation burns are healing every day. They feel a little bit better. I've gotten most of my energy back, and I walk several times a week. One of the best things is that the weather is warming up and I'm not freezing all the time like I was during the winter without my hair. And I can get outside and do things like, you know, walk the dog, work in the yard, and go fishing, which I've been doing a lot of that. I love it. I feel like I've made a huge accomplishment with this, with my treatments. My fight against cancer has been long and exhausting so far, but I've made it. I know I'm not finished yet because I have to start taking my Xylota in a few weeks, but I don't feel quite so lost anymore. So far I've made it through my diagnosis, my chemo, my surgery, and my radiation. And I know there's a chance that my cancer will come back, but I've chosen not to dwell on it because I don't have any control whether it does or not, so it's not going to do any good to worry about it. Cancer has not triumphed over me, not only because my treatments have worked, but because it hasn't killed my spirit. It's made me stronger in a lot of ways, and it's changed my outlook on a lot of things in life. I try to wake up with a good attitude and have as much fun as I can for the day and do the things that I enjoy.